Brayan Bello can't pitch during the day. The Red Sox star pitcher, who's had a very good season, had another meltdown during a daytime start in what was a pretty brutal loss for the Red Sox versus the Texas Rangers on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast, here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday for free, straight to your favorite podcast feed. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day, especially on a day like today when the Red Sox came off of an absolutely brutal loss in Texas to close out that series, and just a very rough game overall, to say the least. I'm going to be diving all into it today and what went wrong and a little bit of a surprising thing that took place during the series. But first of all, don't forget you can catch every Red Sox broadcast for free. Just download the SiriusXM app, search Red Sox, and the home broadcast for every game will be right there for you, so you don't have to miss a single pitch of Red Sox baseball. Wednesday's game was awful. Boston lost 15-5 to the Texas Rangers. It was a complete pitching meltdown with Brayan Bello on the mound, who has been the Red Sox best starter all season long, but certainly not on Wednesday. He cannot pitch during the daytime. He only went 3 innings on Wednesday and gave up 8 earned runs and 4 walks. Struck out 2 and gave up 2 home runs. They were back-to-back in the second inning, Heim and Garver. It's very uncharacteristic of Brayan Bello. A lot of his starts this season have been controlled, and he's been able to limit the damage to about 2 or 3 runs, sometimes 4 per start. But generally, that's how he is, and that's pretty good. But the numbers between his daytime starts and his nighttime starts are vastly different. If you break it down, his earned run average during night games is a 280. And his earned run average during the day, over 6, a 651. And ERA is certainly not everything when it comes to evaluating a pitcher, but those numbers definitely send enough of a message that something's going wrong for him when it comes to these afternoon starts, because he struggled with them all season long. He's looked significantly less confident in those starts, and the wheels just fall off the bus. What is it? I believe one of the biggest reasons is the prep work involved. When he's getting ready for a night game, he has a lot more time during the day to do his warm-up routine and prepare himself for that start. Whereas when it's a day game and he's going through the motions and going through his reps pre-game, there's not nearly as much time for him to prepare. For a night game, he might get to the field 3 or 4 hours before game time. Whereas for an afternoon game, it's harder for him to get to the field that early. So when he is making daytime starts, it's hard for him to feel like he's prepared enough for those games. So at the end of the day, he does need to get better when it comes to starts during the day when it's a day game, because something's going wrong there. And I truly feel like he down the road can be the Red Sox ace, but he needs to figure out with his system how he's going to make that work during afternoon games, because the wheels just seem to fall off the bus for him. And the preparation is huge, because if a pitcher doesn't have enough time to go through their whole routine, it can throw them off. I'm sure there's plenty of pitchers out there who can relate to this, and they need to go through their whole routine before they pitch. So whether that's committing to showing up at the field extra early for day games, or whether that's figuring out a routine that's abbreviated but still is effective and getting more things done to prepare for a daytime start, that's what needs to happen. His start on Wednesday was a new career high in runs that he's given up with 8. His previous career high for runs allowed was on July 19th when the Red Sox were playing in Oakland, and he allowed 6 runs. So 8 is his new career high. It's so not ideal. It also ended a streak of 5 straight road games where he pitched at least 6 innings. So not a lot to be happy about when it comes to Bello starts. Am I concerned? No, there's still a lot that he's learning. He still has a lot of time and a lot of potential to be able to grow into a strong pitcher for this Red Sox team. But the reality is he just isn't there yet. And whatever it is that he's doing to prepare for daytime starts versus nighttime starts, something needs to change, because if he can get himself to the point where he feels as prepared for day games as he does for night games, his numbers are going to improve drastically, and he's going to feel more confident, likely, on the mound. With that being said, I still have hope that eventually he can be the Red Sox ace, but I don't have hope that that can be in the next couple seasons, which means Boston still, like I've been saying, has to go out and be aggressive on the pitching market this offseason and really acquire 1, possibly 2 pitchers that are stronger and more reliable than Bello at this moment to pitch at the top of the rotation. Bello, to me right now, is maybe a 2, more likely a 3 level starter. The Red Sox need somebody who, for one, can pitch effectively in both day and night games, is able to record strikeouts, and is able to be effective the majority of the time. And Bello's effective, but it's a situational thing for him. If we can get it to be not just a situational thing for him and get him to really improve his numbers in all facets of the game, he definitely still can be an ace. But this start on Wednesday shows me that Brayan Bello is not an ace yet, and the Red Sox need to go out and acquire a true ace and possibly a number 2 to slot into that rotation behind that person before Bello. It's impressive to me that he's been able to show so much growth this year, which is why I believe that he still can show growth and improvement throughout his career. But I'm impressed at the fact that he's been able to show so much growth, and it gives me hope that he is going to be able to adapt and be able to figure out what the problem is. But Wednesday's start was very discouraging, I'm sure, for him. So just got to figure out what to do during those day games, how to go about the prep work for the game. And the Red Sox need to go out and acquire a true ace, because Brayan Bello is not an ace yet. He works out with Pedro Martinez, so there's a good chance he eventually can be, but he just simply is not yet. Coming up, I'm going to be discussing a little bit of a surprising player in this series, and somebody who's been playing well as of late since he got called up. So we're going to be discussing that coming up next. Who doesn't love nice deals on ticket sales? I know I certainly do, and Gametime has you covered for all things when it comes to tickets. I am actually going to a concert in Boston tonight with one of my good friends from college. I got her the tickets for her birthday, and I wasn't sure how to find the tickets at a cheaper price because they had really jacked up the prices because they're a pretty popular band. But I immediately went to Gametime because I knew they would have me covered, and certainly enough, they did. and I paid a really decent price for good seats for the concert, and I'm very much looking forward to it. They offer tickets to all kinds of events in your area, and that's what I love about the Gametime app. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I tell you, I've been trying to improve in this area, but I'm still very much a last minute person. So if you're anything like me, from that standpoint, Gametime certainly has you covered for all of your ticket needs. Bobby Dalbec was recently called up by the Boston Red Sox for the weekend series against the Blue Jays and also for this series against the Rangers. And he's been playing very well. Tristan Casas went on the injured list the other day and won't play for the rest of the season. So the Red Sox are now relying on Dalbec to resume first base responsibilities. And he's been hitting very well since being called up. Since 9/16, he's gone 6 for 14 with 2 doubles, 1 home run, a 428 batting average with a 785 slugging, and a 1.252 OPS. He's been very valuable. This series against the Rangers, he certainly stood out to me as one of the strongest hitters in the Red Sox lineup in that series. On Monday, he went 2 for 4 with a double. Tuesday, he went 1 for 3 with a double. And Wednesday, he went 2 for 4, including his first major league home run of the season, which is very exciting. He's been good, but at the same time, he always does this, right? Whenever he gets called up by the Red Sox, he has a stretch where he plays very good baseball, especially offensively, and then he'll drop back down into normalcy and look completely lost at the plate again. So I'm not trying to get too excited about this because I feel like he's going to decline soon because this seems to be a pattern with him. When he first gets called up, I don't know if he's riding a high from being called up to the majors. So he's excited and he's aggressive at the plate and he's hitting well because his confidence is up, or what it is, but there's something in him that triggers him to hit very well for a little while when he first gets called up to the majors, and then he'll fall back into this trap of not hitting well, and then he'll get sent back down to AAA. So I'm not weighing too heavily into this, but he certainly deserves credit for what he's been doing in these last few days. I was very excited for him to hit that home run because that has to feel good for his morale and his confidence. He's only been up for a few days and he was able to hit a home run at the major league level. It was early on in Wednesday's game when the Red Sox were winning and things were looking up, and then it did not last very long. But he certainly deserves credit for that. The good thing about this and how Dalbec has been hitting is that his value will increase because of it. It makes a lot of sense to trade him. Tristan Casas is the Red Sox first baseman now. He's been working heavily with Justin Turner, I would imagine, all season long to improve his game, and his other infielders like Trevor Story and Rafael Devers, who are more experienced, I'm sure have given him some pointers as well. So Tristan Casas is the first baseman of the future. So there isn't necessarily a spot for Dalbec on the roster at this point anymore, because with Casas, when he got injured, they could have easily just stuck Turner at first base, but that wasn't as productive. Yes, he's played a lot of first base this season, but the Red Sox saw that as an opportunity to call up Dalbec so that they can see what type of value he produces from the standpoint of hopefully allowing his numbers to go up so that he can eventually be traded and the Red Sox could get a good return on it. So it makes sense that they would give Dalbec a chance in these last couple weeks of the season when they're not in the wild card race anymore. Allow him to get some reps and get some at-bats and see if those at-bats are going to produce good results. Because if so, then the Red Sox can flip him for good talent, because I'm sure there will be a team that's still trying to build their core that will go after somebody like Dalbec, who spent a lot of his career at the AAA level, but has had some chances in the majors. And another reason why he's not really a good fit for the Red Sox at this point is because he hasn't been able to stick. He's had stints where he's been up in the majors due to injuries, etc., or them just giving him a shot, but he hasn't been able to stick because he hasn't performed. And that's not to say he can't perform elsewhere. Another environment could be better for him. The Red Sox organization just might not be the best spot for him. There's definitely talent there, but it's a matter of finding the right fit for Dalbec and finding the right fit for the Red Sox in terms of the package that they can get for him. And he's had a good season in AAA, which definitely should be noted. He was batting .269 this season in Worcester with a .381 on base percentage and .938 OPS. He had 111 hits with 33 home runs and 79 RBIs, and he also collected 18 stolen bases. So he definitely didn't have any sort of crappy season in AAA this year, which will also help with his value, because a team that could use a first baseman could look at his numbers and say, hey, he's definitely produced at the AAA level, so maybe we start him off in AAA and see how he does there. But then if he continues to play well at that level, then we can call him up and see how he does from the standpoint of producing and being able to be a good key asset to our lineup. So I'm more confident now than I was at the end of last season or even at this trade deadline that he could be moved for a decent return. Alex Spear of the Boston Globe was on the Red Sox broadcast during Tuesday night's game, and he was saying how the Red Sox had previously looked into trade scenarios for Bobby Dalbec, but they didn't really get offered the type of return that they would need for him, which makes sense because his value wasn't super high. He wasn't performing that well. So if I'm another team, I'm looking at him and saying, what does he really have to offer to our team that's worth giving up a key pitcher or a key prospect that we could use down the road? So he's convincing other teams and the Red Sox more and more now that his value could be a lot higher than it was. So I'm just really looking at this next week and a half in the last portion of the season here as the Red Sox look to close it out and look ahead to the offseason. Dalbec is certainly towards the very top of the list as a trade piece that I'm saying, hey, we want to get pitching in this offseason. We should start by spending money now that we have the money to spend and acquire some free agents that can join our pitching rotation and really contribute and go deeper into games and be able to be those guys at the top of the rotation that the Red Sox have been longing for a while and haven't committed to getting. Who are those guys that we can get? So we start off in free agency and we pay some people, and then we can look into trading some assets and going for some talent that is higher caliber that would involve trading pieces. Bobby Dalbec's absolutely a trade piece the Red Sox should look into with their scenario with Tristan Casas really being the first baseman of the future. So I'm hoping that he continues this hot streak that he's on through the end of next week when the Red Sox season concludes, and he just continues to make a case for himself, and the Red Sox continue to make a case for other teams as to why they deserve a competitive trade package for him. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about just the Red Sox incompetencies. The errors continue to plague this team. It's irritating, and they need to figure it out next year. But I'm going to be going over it next. Are you looking for a super reliable sports betting app that can help you get through this exciting time of year for sports? FanDuel absolutely has you covered for that. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Visit FanDuel.com and include money lines, props, etc., and be able to just check out all of these different scenarios because they have so many different options that you can bet on. And if you include the money lines, anything else that you might want to bet on, FanDuel will help you that way. So I highly recommend it as the number one sports betting option for you to get you through the MLB playoffs, the NFL season. Hockey and basketball season is right around the corner, so you can start betting on that as well. So lots of reason to download FanDuel today and use that code LOCKEDON. Also, don't forget that SiriusXM has you covered for the home broadcast of every Red Sox game. Just download the SXM app and search Red Sox, and you will catch the home broadcast there of every game, so you don't have to miss a single pitch of Red Sox baseball moving forward. You might not mind doing that for the rest of this year if you really are just not feeling good about this team right now, but it might be nice because, again, you should cherish the fact that there's only a few more games left because as poorly as the Red Sox perform, I always find myself missing them at the end of the season. And if you're anything like me, you don't want to take that for granted. So make sure you're downloading the SiriusXM app, getting the broadcast for every game, and it'll set you up for next year too when the Red Sox hopefully are a lot more competitive. One thing that certainly did not make the Red Sox competitive this year was all of the errors that they made. They were second in Major League Baseball in errors this year behind just the San Francisco Giants. That is awful. A lot of those errors go back to Kike Hernandez when he was playing shortstop because he just could not play in the infield and he just constantly was making mistake after mistake. So that really is where it started, but the rest of the team didn't help that cause either. And even in the series against the Rangers, we saw a few scenarios in which the Red Sox were making these errors that could have been prevented. One example was Tuesday's game. In the 8th inning, there was a routine ground ball hit to Urías at second base. All he had to do was throw the ball to first. This is a basic play that if you are a professional baseball player, you should easily be able to make. So Luis Urías grounded the ball, took it, and tried to throw it to first base. And it was one of the worst throws I've ever seen. And it should have easily been a basic throw and catch by Dalbec. But no, Luis Urías had to have this awful throw. So it extended the inning. There were 2 outs at the time. So this should have ended the inning, but it ended up extending it when it should have been the last out. Zach Weiss was pitching at the time. He gave up a walk after that, but then luckily was able to get the last out after that. So the error didn't come back to bite the Red Sox, but it's just the principle of it. It's the idea that this team still is constantly making these fielding errors that you don't see a lot of other teams make. And that's when you have to look and say, how prepared are they for these games? Who's working with them and who's making sure that they're comfortable and ready? But on the other hand of that, they are Major League Baseball players. They're making a lot of money to play this sport. So they should be able on their own to play their position and field basic ground balls. I was appalled. I was looking at that a couple times, that play, and saying, how does Urías actually mess that up? This team made the impossible possible this season, I swear. And then on Wednesday, there were 2 incidences, another one involving Luis Urías. In the 2nd inning, there was a ball hit to him, and it was a ground ball. It was a hard hit ball. They ended up ruling it a single, but it was originally ruled an error because Urías had a blunder, a misplay, and couldn't make the play. Yes, it was a hard hit ball, but it was still a play that could have been made. So ultimately, the runner was able to reach first base on that play. And it's frustrating to watch something like that because even though they turned it into a single, again, it was another base runner that reached that could have been prevented. And then later on in that game, Rafael Devers, who has had a very off and on defense, I love him for his bat, and his defense has improved over time this season, but he still has his issues. It seems like he can make the more challenging plays, but can't make the easier plays at third base, if that makes sense. Rafael Devers made a mistake in the 5th inning on Wednesday's game. He bobbled a ball. It was a ground ball, a slow roller to him, and he bobbled it to allow Semien to reach first base. And again, that's a routine play that he should have been able to make. So Devers absolutely needs to improve his defense at third. But all of this goes back to that idea that the Red Sox need to fix this problem with the errors. It happens way too often this year. There have been a lot of games that they lost this year due to the incompetencies of the infield defensively. It's been a mess. Trevor Story coming back from the IL has improved the infield defense a lot. His arm was certainly missed, and yes, he hasn't been able to hit well, but it's like night and day when he's out there playing shortstop from a defensive standpoint. It really is. And he's making a huge difference to this infield, but they now need to figure out, how do we fix this issue with the defense? Is it on Alex Cora? Are they not prepared enough for games? It starts with the players, but do they need to insert new players at certain positions to help improve the defense? What are they going to do about the second base situation this offseason? Are they going to keep Urías in there? Or are they going to keep Pablo Reyes bouncing around in the infield? Are they going to have Rafaela play more in the infield, or is he going to be an outfielder? What's the deal with that? So they need to figure that out, because the errors cost the Red Sox again in this series. It's just too many times and too often that this team has just blown innings because of these errors. So the Red Sox need to buckle down on defense, figure it out in the offseason. What do you need to do to fix that? Because imagine how many more wins this team would have if they didn't make all those errors. I like to imagine it since it's not reality, so it makes me feel better about myself if I imagine it. But they need to figure something out, because this team defensively has been absolutely painful to watch. Don't forget, SiriusXM can get you the home broadcast of every Red Sox game. Just search SiriusXM on the App Store and download it, and then go into the app and search Red Sox, and you will find the home broadcast for every Red Sox game, so that you don't have to miss a single pitch of Red Sox baseball this season as we wrap it up, or going into next season when the Red Sox hopefully will be a playoff team. So download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, and you can sync it with the Red Sox home broadcast for every game moving forward. As I like to always say, sometimes this is hard, especially on a day like today when this team just was a complete mess in their game on Wednesday, and it was just so not pretty. But keep the faith. I promise you it'll be easier to do that next year. The Red Sox are going to go out and be aggressive this offseason. I really am feeling it. I have this feeling we're going to really like the roster for opening day 2024. Try to soak in this last week and a half of Red Sox baseball, because I know I will miss it when it's gone for the season. So keep the faith. As always, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.